Yeah, let's not take that chance. There we go. Hey. Sorry, guys, we have some technical difficulties. We're here now. We're trying to save Russell. Russell's going to be our guest speaker today. And I asked Tammy with this. She'll be introducing to him. This is something different and new, and I'm blessed. Sit back and enjoy. And again, we apologize. We can't control technology when it doesn't work for us. So hopefully everything will go strong. Tammy, I'm now going to hand it over to you to introduce our special guest.
No, Tammy's
Here I am.
There you are.
And top of the day to everybody. So again, my name is Tammy Jo Christ. I am the proud ambassador and founder operator of a real estate corporation, a religious corporation by the name of Christ Truth Trust. It's a 508, 501c3. So for 15 years, I have been intentionally co-creating the holistic and the healing the earth concepts that we all are now bridging into. When On Passive came to me, I knew it was for those reasons. Having said that, I want to introduce you to my old blessed partner, Russell Anderson, who created the 501c3 organization called Clearwater Vision. He's going to be talking about primary water. He will talk about how primary water heals the surface water that's polluted. And therefore, the information he brings up is relevant to much of the global water pollution issues. He's worked with Dr. Yule Brown and Dr. Emoto from Japan. He still works with the Pomo LM tribe that dates back to the Ice Age 14,000 years ago. Now he's dedicating his life to studying the Ring of Fire, which tells the story about all of the rings of fire around the world. So again, I introduce to you Russell Anderson.
okay. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate being on here. I know it takes a long time to do technology, and of course, you know, I'm at the age where I didn't quite fit in with technology for a long time. So, you know, since in the last 5 months, I've dealt directly with just podcasts with people who want to talk to me. And I'm so honored to be here and with you guys to be able to do this. I've just set up a new, I didn't, but the rest of our group put up a new website, clearwatervision.org. You can go on there and you know, start reading some of the stuff and the stuff that we've put together and so on. But mostly the important thing here is that it didn't come from me. And I keep saying that stuff because I had a mentor who basically had run into a guy named Yogananda way back in 1933, and he felt that I was related to him, you know, somewhere out there. And from that one point, I ended up working directly with an herb school and learning more about what it was about herbs that was so important to the rest of the world. I also was a contractor, and of course, the amazing things that happened when I was young, that I worked in a place called the Oakland Hills, and back then there was a big fire and 5 of my buildings burned down. So I looked at that as more or less a blessing for the moments that, you know, we experience these painful things, and yet it brings us into another position. The important thing at this point, that I was so good at working with people that they asked me to go on tour with, you know, with these alternative energy people. And of course, it was an honor. But because I knew how to weld, I was able to run this particular machine called the Brown's gas machine. And somebody, was out there that was trying to explain to me, what it was that I was really trying to do. And, when they said that you must continue what you're doing, I said I didn't know what I was doing. And I Mr. Magoo'd everything. But in reality, I became more stronger in the point of listening and becoming understanding what water really was, because the Brown's gas machine is now famous. A lot of people and scientists are dealing with the Brown's gas machine. They didn't really recognize what it was. And of course, I met the inventor. I ran from city to city, and we would bring about 200 people to every city in '96. So in that point, I became more and more available to people to understand what water really was, because we did this thing called a stoichiometric mixture between hydrogen and oxygen. So what was that supposed to mean? And later in life, I learned about primary water, and we could see, that this was the point of our history where we could become to neutralize the things that are painful to us, that we make a lot of mistakes within industry and so on. And our idea of water was more evolved with what the Native Americans have been thinking for thousands and thousands of years. It wasn't just the Native Americans, but it was around the world that they were more grounded and so on. So at this point, we come to an era of learning more about who we are through water itself. And it's a part of our consciousness to really understand it, because that's who we are as water itself. And so in this important venue, I started to begin to look at this whole thing as just, this is about us and this is about everyone else. And polluting water is not a very good idea, but seems to be how we created our economy, instead of taking our economy and taking our water, the water that exists, and creating the economy of that. So that's a hard venue for people to understand. And so after I went on tour and we had a stadium of people in 1996, it became a miracle, because this mentor of mine would actually pray for me from city to city, and all these little miracles would happen. They continued to happen as we went on tour, and I had to call him halfway and say, listen, I'm out of money, everything's all fine. And all of a sudden I learned that I had money enough to make the rest of the tour. So I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, well, you're going to have a stadium at the end of the tour. So I had to convince everybody through these little miracles that happened around that. And we actually, we'd had 7,000 people in Philadelphia on that one particular day. And we created a lot of funding, a lot of money and so on, so that we could go forward. And yet I didn't know what was that, was getting people greedy every time they saw money. It wasn't about the money for me, and the people that were around me. And it became more or less a danger for, every time you talked about money and so on. And so I decided to go back to the West Coast and said, okay, what I'm going to do here is go, because a shaman asked me to go to Clear Lake, and I didn't know why. So Clear Lake, they established an understanding that here is the oldest lake in this country, and yet it was polluted. And the people that were living around there were dying at a very high rate, twice the amount than normal to the rest of California. And yet people looked down on them. And I said, there's something wrong with this. Here you have the oldest lake in this country, and you're avoiding this issue. And of course, then I learned with the Native Americans who they were, and why they were so important to the rest of the people around me. And we learned this that started in 1997, and of course that was our experiences that we looked at it. And so I went into greater studies that more than just what I thought was important. So here's a people who have a history back from the Ice Age, and the Ice Ages were important to understand if we wanted to understand where we came from and how we came there and what's in our hearts and who we are as human beings. We would learn more and more about what it is that how the earth is created and how it worked. So if you look at a globe, it's really simple to do that. And you look at a globe, and a little child could say, well, where did water come from? Well, the continents used to fit together. And of course, we don't understand that because we only learned so many things through this understanding of the Ring of Fire. So I, wouldn't have all this time to explain it. So I went into all sorts of studies that prove that the Ring of Fire does exist, and how these volcanoes move from south to north through many millions of years, and you don't see them anymore. They're deep in the ground, and they're called calderas, and they have springs that come out of that. And that's the important issue that we have to understand is happening all over the world. Water springs that are coming out of the water are very constructive. And so at this point, at 2010, I finally met another mentor who basically, he came to Clear Lake and he said, the water structure is the most complex he's ever seen. And he couldn't answer that. He couldn't answer the reason why. And so I met with him in 2010, and his name was Dr. Emoto. And he asked me, how did I know all this stuff? And I said, well, I knew another guy. His name was Hugh Brown. He discovered that water came from within the earth through his technology. And I go, well, and he goes and he looks at me and he says, well, I'm studying that. I'm doing all of that. And a year later, he passed away. So I am now connected to the Emoto Foundation on the other side of the Ring of Fire. In other words, we're talking about here's California on this side, and the Ring of Fire is on the other side. We've done all the studying of all of the Ring of Fire on the West Coast. And from that, we've learned more and more about what was the Ring of Fire many, many years ago. 100 million years ago, where we're talking about 25 million years ago with this particular Ring of Fire. And now we're associated with other rings of fire all around the world that have these springs or these calderas that come up and give us pure water. And with that, I decided to travel with the groups that knew how to drill these wells and so on. And they're finding this water basically all around the world, in Africa and Asia. And what would water do for any of these economies that people want to create? Well, it's the cause of all of the economy. So I'm sitting in a position where I need to be able to speak and talk to these people who give them hope for the purest water that is within the earth, and we have to talk about it. I'm really happy if you guys want to ask me any more questions beyond that, but I do want to, because I know I don't have much time, I do want to show you something. Here's a picture of California. California, and of course here's an idea that we're saying is the Ring of Fire travels up of this side of the mountains basically, and it goes and it runs into, let me see if I can get it right. I'm going to measure this. And you see this particular lake right here. Oh, hold on, I gotta see it too. Let's see, this is Clear Lake, California. And of course, it's only a few miles south of or north of San Francisco. And the Ring of Fire comes from this direction, and you can't really see the volcanoes. You can't see them, and all of a sudden you can see the lake here that exists, the last of the oldest seeable volcanoes, we call it. And from there, the Ring of Fire goes into the ocean and travels up through here. So just by knowing that this movement of volcanoes, it opens up a door to ourselves and the society. This here is once a lake many years ago. I mean, you can imagine 450,000 years ago, and all of a sudden this area opened up and it created the Bay of all bays with San Francisco. What does this mean to the rest of the world? It's turning into a desert, basically, because of misuse of water, because we don't understand where water comes from. So we're basically desperate. We're entering into a phase where here is what we call the Tigris and Euphrates of the West. The important issue here is that we understand where water comes from so that we can refeed this whole thing. I've had people that come into this area who douse their water and so on, and they know exactly where to go, in finding these calderas and so on, but they're blanked out, because majority of our population only believes in water that comes from the atmosphere, not the lower firmaments, as the Bible has said. The whole reasoning for us to understand is there's a dual aspect, and the water below the mantle, in which we can find in these areas right here, you can see the complexity of the water in this lake, even though it's polluted. So what we really want to do is become more and more aware of where water comes from as we look into a state of character that we're part of this duality, but upper and lower firmaments, and we only know one firmament. So this is a thing that we've been able to pursue, and we have so many things to talk about in terms of understanding how the earth works and how it has a connection to humanity. So in our work with Dr. Emoto, we want to say that these places all over the world are like this, and so we're finding these springs, these certain types of springs that have the same type of makeup as what's going on with Clear Lake, and we want to tell the people. And we want to show how we can find that. And so because we know about consciousness, because water is consciousness, we treat it as if it's a thing and so on. And so we create our economy out of polluting it, in a sense. And at this point, we're just asking for us to pursue our understanding of this. And we have many ports all over the world, that can bring water up, but we're talking in terms of vibration. Our vibrations are important. Everything that we do, our whole life, our prayer, the way we pray, the way we ask questions, and the way we live our lives are so valuable and important to ourselves and the people around us. And that's why Native Americans are very important, and because they stayed grounded for many years. They helped us understanding, the Declaration of Independence and all of those things that we don't give them credit to. We need to review that. So I'm working with a small little group that have been dying for many years, and I'm asking to help them because we need their wisdom. We need a lot of that. So there's much to talk about the possibilities of cleaning our water, from learning more about how the earth cleans itself through the primary water. So if you have any questions, I know we don't have much time, but I'm glad we're here. There's plenty of things that we can dialogue, and it's just so valuable in information. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Russell, number one, this is very interesting to me. A lot of people don't know, I love water, ocean, fresh. I know we do have an issue in that direction your way of lakes just depleting, disappearing, but I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna combine these two questions together. Where did you learn this and how long have you been doing this?
Well, where I learned it is basically since 97, some 96, I learned most of it from Dr. Hugh Brown, and Dr. Hugh Brown basically had passed away. I mean, people get old, we all get old and so on. So we have to pass this over. I do know that how long have I been doing? I look back at my life, and I think everybody does look back at their own life. It doesn't matter how old they are, but they seem to be knowing this stuff consciously. They seem to be doing it anyway. I'm just telling a story, from one point, but I can go way back to my childhood and say, well, we can't pollute that water. And so, I think, the young people today understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a lifelong dream of yours. I was hoping you were gonna say, Chris, I found the fountain of youth.
Yeah, I did. And we polluted it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I was going to next. Good answer. I do. What do you mean by primary water? I think maybe people might be a little confused. Can you give me a little more better definition?
Yeah, there's we call it the lower firmaments is actually the primary water. And I mean, there's much to say about where it comes from, but I mean, if you study a volcano, and that's what we're doing, we learn more about how the water comes through the poles. And I mean, it's going to be a long story to tell you that you're going to say that's a little crazy, but it comes through the poles in a different form, and it comes up through the earth, and it really creates through the rocks, and it is very pure and very healthy and so on. And basically that's the other firmament that's created in the Bible. And the whole purpose of this understanding is God put his spirit upon the water is what we're really learning about what it is that is a stoichiometric mixture between hydrogen and oxygen. So primary water is basically this equality between male and female, just as we are. Where once we learn, these understandings of the vortex and understanding about how the earth is created, we will learn more and more about who we are and how we need to treat each other kindly and become more one with the earth.
I agree. We've kind of destroyed God's artwork as far as he had a perfect system, and because of economies and factories and things that we think we need, we've actually really hurt the system.
Yeah.
So I do have some questions coming in. I want to go through these first. You mentioned water is consciousness. What do you exactly mean by that? I think you kind of explained it, but I'd like to hear it again.
Oh, I love that. If people ask me consciousness, because we are all consciousness, and we know that internally. It isn't an external thing that we have to talk about and so on. We just want to love each other. We're into Thanksgiving, we're into giving, we're into loving each other and so on. But this stoichiometric mixture is this combination between hydrogen and oxygen, or the family structure. That family structure is needed for everything and everybody. But water is alive. It's alive. And through working with Emoto, he was showing that hey, we can literally change ourselves with our own consciousness. We can change life with a consciousness. And if we look at primary water, it's just a baby. It's just it wants to love us. And so, I mean, it's hard for us to say that because we've been believing only water comes from the atmosphere for thousands of years. And it's time for us to realize where the origin of water comes from. And it's not just, this planet, it's all planets. We're finding out that these other planets have water at their poles and so on. And that's an obvious thing that we need to discover. And this is like, like a little child could understand, but grownups don't seem to understand yet. And so we're just trying to be humble about it.
Very good answer. This one's a little, not, it kind of sounds mean, but it isn't, because I've always heard things about the indigenous people. Well, why did you involve yourself with the indigenous peoples? I think you have a great answer for this. I really do.
Thank you. Well, it's what it is basically, of course, everybody becomes angry at everybody throughout the ages because they can logically prove that, hey, you treated me badly and so on. The Native Americans were treated even worse than we really know, even by ignoring them. It was and we found that the natives that I worked with have been swimming in a lake that's full of primary water, and even the way they feel and they think and everything else is just a glorious thought, and so there, if you want to study the chakras of the human body, the first two chakras are basically a sound that sounds like crickets, and even our own, things grow because the cricket comes out at night and basically, creates a growth of the vegetation around it. Well, here are some people that have been treated badly, and they have the wisdom. They have a wisdom, and the wisdom is what we need the most. We seem to discard our wisdom, as people get older. And at this point, we're here to become more understanding of our elders. And of course, if you have a civilization that was around for 14,000 years during the Ice Age, it's a whole different process of learning, and we truly need their guidance. The first two chakras of the human body are basically, a sound of Om, a sound of getting into our guts, which is extremely important for us to understand. It's a do, re, mi. Instead of just me, we can change that to we, do, re, we. And actually allow us to see this together instead of apart.
Very good. I knew you had a good answer for that one. I got one more question, but I have another question from another gentleman here, and we got like 7 minutes here. So, now that we know primary water exists, why is it that more people don't know about it?
Well, that's the other thing we studied, because we do this. And if I had this map and I show you that the most of it, when we look at the past, that last 100 years since, or 200 or 180 years since the gold rush, we found that the element of mercury existed on the most these logical points. When a volcano goes down, the mercury comes up. So I went to India and I went to Nepal to study the facts of mercury and what the Dalai Lama said. And he said at one time, he said in the future, mercury will become a neurological medicine. Now, that's not possible in the Western world to actually think about it. But here we had this Native American tribe that lived directly on a mercury mine. And they died. Their children couldn't make it to schools. Their lives was miserable because they couldn't think the way other people wanted to think. But if you study mercury, Mad as a Hatter has been going on for many, many thousands of years. And what we want to do is solve this problem. We want to say, hey, these are ways that, so you're just talking in terms of, hey, we're saying that water comes from, the origin water comes from within the earth. There's something that is blocking us to not thinking that. So we studied mercury, and it's the one substance that begins its melting point at 60 or 40 degrees below zero. So you're looking at the reasoning for this bioaccumulation of mercury that's going on, not just in one spot, but many spots over the world, into our atmosphere. So we have to be able to go to understand, and this is what I've learned from Brown's gas just recently, is that the water needs to be structured, and we have the ability to do that. Through this thing called Brown's gas, when you stoichiometric mixture, when it's very positive, and you add in the structure of the surface water, and it's going to be a long time to explain that. But in the terms, what it does is it makes us lackadaisical about learning all of this stuff. And it's the most wholesome thing to do. And I was taught by my mentor to say, focus on the positive and face the negative. So the only way we can really focus on the positive is to be able to face the negative and to be able to shift that and change it and neutralize it. We have the power to do that, to neutralize not just the mercury, but the radioactive waste. And that's what Brown had told us a long time ago. We could neutralize nuclear waste. So what are we doing right now? There's a really important thing for us to know. The history is repeating itself over and over, and we need to be able to learn how the earth works and how we can stop and neutralize these things we call in our industry, especially right now because of the bombing and what's happening over, in these wars that are being created and so on. We need to neutralize nuclear waste really soon, very soon. Not just, we need to at least learn about it and say, hey, isn't it time for us to wake up to this? And, these events that are happening are, in a sense, they're positive so that we can learn about it. And so we're doing the testing now between the surface water and primary, where we're putting them together, and we're seeing miracles that are happening. And so we're just beginning now to fight this fight, and we love to fight the fight. We're going to say it's part of our life.
Very good. All right, last question. This is from my buddy Dave Roseski. He's basically saying, wouldn't recreating the natural process be most beneficial if employed on an industrial scale?
Yes, well, we have a guy, and he's a good friend of mine. He's been developing the Brown's gas. He's taken over from Dr. Hugh Brown, and he's good. I'm sure, I just sent him a letter just the other day that, what I've learned from other inventors and so on. We've been learning to put the dots together. It's really, really important that we do that. We're not doing it alone. We can't. We need everybody, and we need everything, to recognize that what we did to industry can be reversed. And yes, there's all sorts of ways of doing it, but we need to learn to detox our own physical bodies. We need to begin understanding, and we found out that we can just go directly right to the volcanoes to do that. The herbs work and so on, but we've polluted the herbs too. So we have to be understood in that manner. And so I just wanted to explain that part to you. We're looking at a great future. This place called this Central Valley, we can feed the world. All we have to do is begin our process of helping others and finding out our vibrations and so on.
Very good, Russell. I'm going to tell you the same thing I just told a whole bunch of people. You have made a difference. Through Bless, you're going to make a lot bigger difference, I believe. Number one, it was an honor to meet you. I'm pretty sure now we had other things, guys, but because of technical difficulties, it didn't happen. We could continue this sometime later. But we'll talk about this tomorrow at the, if you have questions and stuff, let's talk about it Tuesday at 8 o'clock with our feedback. I was very, very impressed by what you had to say, Russell. Tammy, thank you very much for in touching me with, but listen, I have Russell's email. If you want to contact Russell, thoughts, maybe very interested. I know got a lot of text here. And if with your permission, Russell, I can give them your email and they can email you.
Of course, you know, take everything. You take my whole body, everything, my house. You're gonna have everything you got.
I like your artwork you got back there. I was going to ask you about those pictures. What are those pictures?
Yeah, those are Hindus and Jesus, a Christian. We all put it all together. Yeah.
Wonderful.
My mentor's part of that, I guess. So, you know, he's
I
very,
like it.
we need more people. We need to bring East and West together.
Absolutely. We need to bring the world together, to be honest with you. But guys, if you want to know more or have some questions for, I'm going to call him the doctor, Mr. Russell Anderson,
Yeah, thank you.
send it to me and I will give you his email and he'll be able to answer all your questions. Maybe you can help out and we'll build this. I see Marty keeps popping on and off on here. Marty, you have something to say?
No, I just want, when they're switching over, I want to see if they want to do it live or not.
Okay. I'm going to end this here in a second. And is that what you're talking about? Marty? Ah. Russell.
Is it this gonna go right into Julian?
Yeah, but I'm going to stop it. I told Julie I'd stop it 7 to 10 minutes early so she can get going on her next thing.
Does she need a new, if you stop it, she has to make a new link.
Oh, I guess I could keep it going then.
Well, I can stop the video and the recording when you're done, then they can come in.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm sure she's
All
listening.
right.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead.
Russell, once again, thank you very much. I'm getting a lot of texts right now asking for your email, which is a good thing. You're making a difference. And I
Also,
believe
clearwatervision.org. You can use our website if you like, you know.
there you guys go too.
But if you call Tammy up and she can direct all that, you know.
All right. That
Yeah.
sounds like a plan. Tammy, thank you for getting me involved with Russell. Russell, I look forward to working with you in the future with Obless. I love it because we need things like this. Education on things people don't even understand, which I love. You know, you just brought up some really good, you made a huge difference right here. You probably opened up a lot of minds that never thought about this, mine being one of them. And I love that. So I appreciate you, Russell. Thank you. God bless you. You and Tammy both. And I guarantee I'll be talking to you soon.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
God bless.
Love
Thank
to-
you, Tammy. Tammy, you have any last words?
Oh, love to you. Russ, you did a beautiful job considering that the presentation was cut very short. When you speak of the water and the primaries, I feel only love because it literally moves within us. And so there's so much love and I want to thank you for bringing us on.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, I'm gonna text Julie right now. I think you guys are all set. I think Marty said he wants. There you go. Russell, once again, man, thank you. I even though it was short, you got it out very strong message because a lot of people are blowing up my phone. So you gave me some more work, Russell.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a little bit at a time, but we
Yeah.
had a lot of fun. We still had fun. Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
Russ's website is shorthanded with the administration. So
Okay.
you told people to email you, you will email Russ. Really, if they emailed me, I might have been able to help intervene and feed it to him.
Okay. Well, send me, I got both your emails, so anyone that's asking me, I'll send them your direction.
Thank you, Chris.